Today I'm going to show you how to make a checkerboard and add some colorful drips. So first I'm making marks for every 1 inch down the paper, and I move the ruler down and I'm going to make marks every 1 inch, and then I'm going to line those lines up and I'm going to make those straight lines. Please make sure that it's completely lined up straight, otherwise your lines are going to be crooked and your checkerboard's going to look really weird and wonky. So then after you get everything all lined up and get all of those lines created, then what you're going to do is you are going to do the 1 inch marks on the other side. So 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, move it down and then mark the 1 inch areas, and then now line those lines up, and then now you will have your checkerboard. And the reason I'm going to do the entire paper checkerboard is because I'm not entirely sure where I want my drips yet. So just to be safe, I'm just doing the whole paper with the checkerboard. And then after I have all of the lines drawn in pencil, what I'm going to do is I started painting all of the checkers black, and then I realized this is kind of dumb. I shouldn't have done this because there's literally going to be drips up there. So I was like, okay, let me draw out the drips, and then I will do the checkerboards on the areas where the drips are not going to be. So I'm making sure that I'm doing every other square black and every other square white. And I'm going in with a flat paintbrush to try and make all of the edges look as crisp and clean as possible. But even with a flat paintbrush, it's actually kind of hard to get all of the edges clean. And so then I was like, okay, I kind of want to have this planned out better. So I took black and I marked off all of the areas of the checkerboard that will be black. But don't do this with paint. Do it in pencil or something, because I did it in paint and then it made it really hard to get this checkerboard done without just smearing black paint all over my hand and all over the areas. So I was like, great, that was a really dumb idea. So don't do that. So I'm trying to get all of these squares painted and try and make them as clean and neat as possible. And let me tell you, this took forever because I literally was painting the squares, and then I had to go back in with white paint and clean them up, and then go back in with black paint and clean them up again, and then white paint and clean it up again. And it was just back and forth, back and forth. It was very frustrating. So I am giving you permission to do 2 inch squares if you want to. You do not have to do 1 inch squares. You can do 2 inch squares if you want to. That will make it so that there's less squares for you to paint, and then therefore being less squares for you to actually try and have to clean up. So now after I have all of the black squares done, I'm going in with white and I'm trying to clean up those lines because they are not straight. From far away, they look fine, but up close, I made a mess. It was a mess, okay? Not clean at all. And I was trying. I actually was legitimately trying. So then I'm going in with the white and I'm trying to clean up all of the edges. And right now I am mixing all the colors that I need for the rainbow drips while all of the checkerboards dry, so that I can go back with the white without having to worry about smearing the black. So I am deciding to do rainbow drips, but I want them to be a little bit on the pastel side. So I am making sure that all the colors that I'm mixing, I am adding white to them so that they are lighter and will be the pastel color scheme that I am envisioning in my head. So I am doing basic rainbow colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and I'm mixing them and then adding white. So after I have all of my colors and I'm like, yeah, I like these, then I'm starting to go back and I'm going to clean up all of the checkerboards with the white paint and try and get them to look as clean as possible. See, up close, it does not look good. I really am trying to clean up the edges, and the way that I found that got the edges the straightest was that technique I just used, where I'm using the flat part of the brush and just making little straight lines and marks. And so I'm just cleaning up all of the checkered, and this is fast forwarded, I think 27 times speed. So I'm telling you, this took forever, okay? But I was actually really happy with the end result, so it was totally worth it, but it was frustrating. But I was happy with the end result. I think that it looked really cool. So if you want, you can do 2 inch or 1.5 inch boxes. They don't have to be small 1 inch boxes if you do not want them to be. If you want to make your life a little bit easier, definitely make the bigger boxes. But I mean, it's totally up to you and whatever your aesthetic preferences are. And so after I get it all cleaned up, then I'm taking the black and now I'm cleaning it up again and just trying to get all of them to look as perfectly straight as possible. And then when I get all of that done, I will start doing the colorful drips. And it's just, this whole checkerboard part was very time consuming and painstaking. But when I got it done, I was very happy with it. And I thought that, okay, that was definitely worth all of the like struggle. And then I just tried to use white to like even out the black line, but the black was not completely dry. So I made it gray. So that's why that box is gray. So now I'm taking my red that I mixed, and it kind of looks like a red orange that I mixed with the white. And I'm just going to do a stripe, but it's the thickness of the paintbrush basically. And as you can see, it's going to need multiple coats because of the black paint underneath still showing through and the pencil showing through. So after I'm done getting all of this painted in, I decided I'm going to erase all of those pencil marks because it was too much and I would need too many coats to have to go through all of the pencil marks and the other black. So I'm putting another coat on here, and then I'm going to start working on getting everything kind of prepped for the other colors, because I thought I'd be able to paint over everything and it would just be like one coat and it would not be a big deal. But that wasn't the case. As you can see, I was like, you can see the pencil still. So then here I am trying to fix up the white boxes again. And then here I am erasing all of the pencil marks because the orange, you could see the pencil marks all the way through it. And I was like, okay, all of these other colors are gonna also show the pencil marks. And so when I was erasing, I got a little bit of the like red orange on the white parts of the paper, but it was okay because I'm gonna paint over all of that with white to kind of prime it so that it will be faster and easier for all of the colors to be painted and not need nearly as many coats. Because I don't want to have to do 5 coats and be wasting my time when I could have just prepped it properly and prepped the paper properly so that it could be 2 coats. So here I am doing another coat of the red and just trying to make sure that I'm getting every single part of the red to be solid so that it looks more purposeful, it looks more finished and complete. And then when I'm done with that, I'm gonna start doing the orange layer. And the orange layer, the orange is like a little bit lighter. So that's why I was like, okay, definitely need to paint the paper white to get this done faster and more efficiently. So I'm just painting this layer about the same thickness, and I'm going to try and keep all of the layers to be about the same thickness as the first layer of the colors. And it's about the thickness of the paintbrush. So it's not that hard to keep the thickness consistent, but it will look better if all of the colors of your drips are the same thickness. And for colors or color scheme for your drips, you can choose whatever color scheme you want. Just make sure you're using like 5 different colors. So say you wanted to do reds and pinks and you just wanted to, you know, mix reds and pinks with different tints, tones, and shades of the reds and pinks. That's totally fine, because then you can just add, you know, white, add gray, add black to red, and then you can get 5 different tints, tones, and shades of red, and you can do them all red drips. I decided to do rainbow drips, but you can do whatever color scheme that you want. Just make sure that they are basically in rainbow order, so that it looks more consistent, it looks more fluid, it looks more purposeful, and it looks more complete. So this last layer is going to be that lavender color, and I'm just going to fill in that whole little rectangle spot with the lavender color. And I actually think that that looks totally fine because it's not as much paint as if I would have just like covered the entire thing with the red, and I didn't want to have to do another red layer. So here I am just adding more coats and just trying to get things cleaned up and make sure that it's like painted very solid. You're not seeing any of the paper underneath. You're not seeing any of the pencil. You're not seeing any of the checkerboards. And then I flipped it over because this is the way I want the painting to be. And so now what I'm doing is I'm just cleaning my brush so that I can make sure that when I'm painting the white that there's not any contaminated water, contaminated colors, and I'm just cleaning up some sections of the checkerboard that just need a little extra help. And so I'm taking the white paint and trying to clean up those edges. And then now I'm taking the black paint and trying to clean up some more edges. So as I was saying earlier, it does take kind of a lot to get these checkerboards to be straight, but I mean, it's totally worth it. I think that it looks really good. And so I was just blowing it dry because I am going to use some markers on it, and I didn't want to ruin my marker by having any like paint at all get onto the marker. And then after I blew it dry, I realized, okay, well, there are some white spots I definitely need to fill in. That's why I filled in with the green. And then I'm taking my marker and I'm cleaning up the edges of the black checkers because it's making it look straighter, more complete. And I realized that this was actually a lot faster than trying to get the edges to be clean and neat from the paintbrush, because that paintbrush, even though yes, it was a flat paintbrush and it was like a square paintbrush, I was still struggling. So then now here I am, and I am outlining all of the colors. But if you do it a little bit too hard, you press a little bit too hard on the paint, especially if there are any raised edges on the paint, it will create an area where the marker is not solid. So you want to try and like not press very hard so that you don't get those lines that are not solid black. But again, if it isn't solid black, you can go over it again and you can create it to be solid black. And this is what it looks like when it's complete. Hope y'all have fun.